I want to take a moment, this has already been done, but I want to do it again. I want to take a moment to remember the three gentlemen who are no longer with us. Charlie Hammond, Joe Quinn, and John Connor. God bless them, wherever they are. I also want to thank my wife, Barbara. Just stand. Receive your awards are always corny, and so I want to thank my mother and father because I'm here. I truly want to thank my father. My father was a newspaper with the Rochester newspapers. He put the ink in my blood, and it's always been there. Now, one of the things that I wanted to do as my part of the program is tell you how I got here. I'm the only one who knows how I got here. I was teaching a course in high school in Tonawanda, New York. I was an English and Latin teacher, believe it or not. And I started a 2-year program. I started a program in high school journalism. I taught it for 3 years. One day, a young girl, Becky Szymanski. Now, why should 40 years later remember Becky Szymanski? Came up to me and said, Gerry, Mr. Leone in those days. Mr. Leone, can you tell me anything at all about the program in Morrisville, the journalism program in Morrisville? And I looked at her. Now, after being there for 8 years, I was ready to get out. I was not a high school teacher. I just didn't make it in high school. And the wheels started to turn immediately. I said, Becky, I don't know anything about the program in Morrisville. I will find out. And tomorrow you know it. So that night, sure enough, I went home, made a couple phone calls, called Dr. Ewing, who was then the Dean of Instruction here, and I said, Dr. Ewing, I understand that you have a journalism program. I'm very interested in possibly becoming a part of it. And he said, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Leone, we've already hired a man from Utica to begin the program. And I said, well, I'm sorry, you know, I was very interested, but what I'd like you to do, if you would, I said, would you mind putting my name on a list? And when it comes time for possibly increasing the program, I'd like to be considered. He said, sure, we'll do that. And I said, and that was it. And I told Barbara to have it. And then about 2 weeks later, I get a phone call. Dr. Ewing calls. Mr. Leone, are you still interested in the journalism program? He said, the gentleman from Utica, who was not a teacher, is a newspaper man, has gotten cold feet. He does not want to teach. He does not want to start the program. And if you were interested, I would like to meet with you in the next couple of days. So Barbara and I got in the car the next day. We left these two guys with their grandmother, and we came to Morrisville. And I got the job right on the spot. I must have said the right things. He must have seen that vision that these people had talked about. And I took the job with a great deal of trepidation. You know, I was not a hell of a lot older than these people that stood up not long ago. And I took the job and came here to Morrisville, and just everything fell into place. And it just, it wasn't all peaches and cream. These people can tell you it wasn't all peaches and cream. I want to tell a story about the president of the college. We were relegated to the secretarial typing lab. That's where our news lab was.
Yep.
We shared it with the secretaries.
Yep.
And this went on for several weeks, and it got to the point where you can't teach news ready in the secretarial lab. So I went to see John Stewart, who was then the vice president, and I said to John, we've got to have some place of our own. We need an identity. These people are hard workers, and we've got to have identity. Gerry, I don't know where to put you. Every room on this campus is taken. And by all means, it's not that big, not as big as it is now. So he said, I'll tell you what, I'll make a deal with you. He said, you find a room on this campus that's not being used and it's yours. About 3 days, I scoured this entire campus. I went to every building, into the top floors, the bottom floors, and do you know where I found that room? Underneath John Stewart's office. In the basement of that building right next door, I found a room where they stored tires. They stored tires. And I went back to John and I said, John, I found the room. He said, where the hell did you find the room? I said, right underneath us. He said, they're storing tires in there. I said, John, they can store tires someplace else, but we need a newsletter. Within a couple days, he had that room cleared out. He had it painted. He had it rehabbed, and that became our news office. That became our News One classroom. Now, Frank, I don't want to take the thunder away from Frank. In his letter that he has written for the book, he wrote that we were together looking for a name for our newspaper. And we toyed several ideas, the Chronicle, the Morrisville Chronicle, you know, traditional names. And it got to be very late in the afternoon, and in this building there was a tower with chimes. And the chimes went off, probably around 3 o'clock, and Cindy Atherley, who later became Cindy Court, his wife, said, why don't we call it the chimes? And we looked at each other, and it was a natural, and the chimes was born. The Morrisville Chimes was born that day. I also want to thank the 5 men who were responsible for putting who germinated the idea of a journalism program at Morrisville College. Mason Taylor from the Utica papers, John Tuttle, the publisher of the United Dispatch, George Wardley, who ran the 3 or 4 manliest newspapers, Mike Milmo, who ran the Canastota newspapers, and Mario Rossi from Syracuse. They planted the seed of the idea into the heads of President Whipple and the people in Albany. And that's how this program was born, because of the idea of those 5 gentlemen. And I want to thank them, and I know that most of them are up there looking down. Now, Randall Gooch took all my time. A lot of time. And old Blabbermouth on the end, all over there. As I look back over my teaching career, those of you who have taught know that the greatest reward that a teacher can have is knowing that he or she somehow influenced the student. For me to know that I guided you or helped you in your professional and personal lives is the greatest tribute that you can pay me. It is I who am grateful. I'm grateful that you came into my life. I'm grateful that you allowed me to affect you. I am privileged. Not so much to have you as alumni, but to have you as friends and loved ones. My 12 years of retirement are enriched by the memories of you and the nearly 30 years that I had here as chairman of the journalism department. I want to thank each and every one of you, not for what I did for you, but for what you did for me. You have meant a great deal. God bless each and every one of you, and may your lives be as fulfilled as mine has been. I love you all.